The Well Comedy Club has some incredible talent that comes through. Can you guys share a memorable experience with a fellow comedian you've had on stage?
There's my favorite memory of here at the Well Comedy Club was when Marcos booked his one of his first shows with this comedian named Chappelle Lacey. Dan featured on it. I think I may have had like an opening spot.
We dual hosted it.
Did I feature that? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, you featured. We dual hosted. And it was Marcos's first show after quitting his big like 6-figure job, and he's like, I'm gonna do comedy. And then Dan's on stage, and then Marcos is just off stage with me, and I just see this. You just see him start crying.
I'm sitting right here.
You're so mean. You're calling him out, dude.
He was crying. He's just like, this is my life now. I'm just so happy. I think that was like a turning point. And I even told Dan that one time, I'm like, I don't know if we'll ever be on the road together, but even me, you, and him, and you, I feel like we can go on the road together in the future. And we can rock this. Like, it's time. If I saw it bring to tears this dude who is clearly rugged and has tattoos everywhere, I was like, we're doing the right thing. And
Anthony was crying in the bathroom too. He cried in the bathroom.
I did not. I did not cry.
No, yes, you did.
I did it.
That was because of his hemorrhoids.
No. I distinctly remember I was sitting there and he was just shaking his head like this, looking at me, and I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "We're fucking doing this." And I was like, "Yeah, man."
Stop. Be vulnerable. Don't laugh it off. Be vulnerable. It's a beautiful moment.
It was very nice. It was probably one of my most memorable moments. I remember because I was nervous. I didn't know how the show was gonna go. It was the first time I ever worked with an agency. There was a comic who I really, really wanted to get out, and I was like, just from like watching him on podcasts and knowing his background and stuff like that, I think I could jive with this guy.
Yeah.
And we ended up like we're in the green room, we're hanging out, we're talking, and I was like, it works. Like, it was almost like, how you plan something. You watch people on TV, I think I could be friends with them.
Uh-huh.
And then that's exactly what happened. I was like, oh, I could be cool with this person. And it happened. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I can't believe that worked like how I thought it would work. And then I gave him like a endearing thing because he was a skater. And I gave him like a board that said like Bakersfield on it.
Oh, that's cool.
And he loved it. He
was super
so,
That's cool.
So happy with it. But
I think it's like going back really quick. I think it's funny how you guys both have shared something with comedy and with Dan, and Dan doesn't remember.
that's everything. It's everything. Yeah.
He has bigger fish to fry. He's a club owner now.
No. I actually like that happens. I think because it gives me a chance to. It's like those moments were just genuine moments. They were just a fleeting moment. You know what I mean? It was just you're just being yourself, and then you connected in that way. And I promise you, there's a dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen Bakersfield or LA or Central Valley comics that have similar stories like that, where you guys are the me in that story, where they go like, I promise you, and you're gonna have more of them as you guys go, where some young first-time comic was scared shitless to go on stage, and one of you guys was the host that night, and you gave him that proverbial pat on the back of like, get up there and go do it, or like they got off stage. Was there something about proverbial pat on the back? Did we
just farted? Sorry.
For real?
I felt it vibrate over here.
All of you?
It was the wind.
That's going to be
No
your
pun
story.
intended.
There I was, hanging out with Marcos and Howdigi, and then one of them just farted in the middle of... That's your story. No, that's cool that you have that. And I remember that moment.
Dude, Dan came up to me and was like, did somebody die? I go, no.
No,
I was crying.
He's like, no,
like
this
that.
is just my life.
No, I remember distinctly. You were sitting exactly right
here.
there, and I was over here farting around with something on the table. And I don't know if I heard you or I turned back and
my hands were in my. I had my hands on my. Like it was in my hands.
Look, no, hey,
I was trying to hide it.
Look, I'm inspired a little bit. Did you guys just see there was a clip of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in an interview, and they were like, just. It's so, as comics, we're so susceptible to like if one of you has a vulnerable moment and I think it's funny, there's like an immediate like guy with his pants down. Like it's such a perfect opportunity. It's like it's the crowd work. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to do material. The fat guy fell out of the chair. I have to address it. You know what I mean? Like we have to do it. So we all do that to each other. But I'll be genuine for a moment and vulnerable about it. It was a beautiful thing because I turned around, I saw you choked up, and I said something. I said, "Everything all right?" And you couldn't answer me for a second. You were in your moment. I thought someone died in a car wreck. I was like, "Is everything okay? Is everything?" I thought for sure you'd be like, "Dude, I just found out my grandma just passed or something." But it was awesome to see. So I was super proud of you, and it was a great fucking show. Chappelle's a great comic. I've crossed paths with him other places now too, and it's great. It's like how we screwed up our payment for him that night, as I recall. Right? Was it that night?
Yeah, it was that same night. We made him drive back.
We overpaid him and made him come back.
Too much money. We made him come back and get a new check.
And he was so gracious about it. He was so cool about it.
He shouted you guys out on
a podcast.
On a podcast, didn't he?
Great dude. I totally see the connection and the vibe. I'm like, oh, that's somebody I could kick it with. You know what I mean? Like, that was a great moment to be able to be. But that wasn't my moment. You know what I mean? Like that's your moment. That's your story. I was glad to be a non-player character in that situation. You know what I mean? Here's a fun one for me that, again, you guys were a part of, but I got to be in a different role of. Dave Williamson here, after the show one night, goes out with Bert Kreischer and some of these guys. Great comic, great dude. Another totally genuine, I am what I am. Take it, don't take it, whatever. Moment where we all hung out after a show and just got loaded here one night, or at least I did. Certainly Dave did. I want to say one of you guys drove his car back to the hotel.
Yeah, I drove his Jeep back.
And then one of you guys drove your other car.
And he gave us seasonings.
Yeah. He's got a pork
seasoning's
rub or
pretty
something.
good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We hung out and got hammered. It was just open bar, just hanging out. Dave poured his own beer. Do you remember this? And sprayed it all over himself.
Sprayed it
Whatever.
everywhere.
Hilarious. That's a. I don't remember what the original question was, but that was a
moment,
fun.
yeah.
What was
The moment, your favorite moments.
favorite moments?
With
But
the
it has to
certain
be
comics.
here at the well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night, Dave Williamson, all of us hanging out, drinking, just having a good time was a fun one. There was the point where your mom gave you a taser for protection here, which just became a prop. The thing, we eventually killed it, right? We literally ruined the taser. You cannot use it for protection, but we used it to tase the hell out of each other.
Yeah, I think I tased about 12 people while I was here.
Easily, conservatively.
We recorded a sketch promoting a show with that taser too.
And I was here working in my office. Had no idea that you guys were coming to do that. And I just saw on the security cameras, I was like, what the hell is going
You did
on?
come out, yeah.
I poked my head out.
Yeah.
People are zapping each other. Those moments, because we were talking about off camera a little bit earlier, like as the professionalism of you guys as comics and promoters and bookers and producers and the club and all, the professionalism grows. Some of the fun stuff, goes away a little bit. I think it's coming full circle again a little bit lately. It feels like maybe, but those moments, the off camera, never mind the show, tasing, the smelling salts. There's still a box of Pocky One Chip Challenge chips or whatever in my office.
Those things are expired.
Yeah, but were they going to be good? If they did, you know what I mean? Well, what happened now? They're not as spicy. Like they're going to be awful. I like there's a 50-way tie for a lot of those moments for me. I'm hard pressed to come up with the one. There's been a few. Eddie Molina's a local comic and host, and Greg Fitzsimmons is one of his favorite comics. Seeing Eddie get to be on the same show as Greg or bringing him up is another one of those got to sit back and just enjoy. That's cool that this is happening.
So a lot of wholesome moments here.
Yeah.
A lot of.
And then tasing each other. Yeah.
Well, that's still wholesome to me.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of those moments, I think. Or there's some of the the late night hangs. The first time we tased each other, Marcos and I was annihilated. Were you sober?
Yeah, you gave me a fake text from Eddie Bravo. Dan gave me a
That's
fake text
right.
from Ryan, one of his friends, and I didn't know it was his friend at the time, and I was looking at it, I go, yo, who
It was a
is
bet,
this?
right?
It was a bet, and it was all if I get to tase you if Eddie Bravo picks up the phone. And I go, you're crazy. And it's like, you don't have, because I didn't believe you had his number.
Right.
He told me you had his phone number, and I was like, you don't have his phone number. And then he said, if I call him right now and he answers the phone, I get to tase you. And he changed his name in his phone to Eddie Bravo. And he called him, and then just as he sounded so tired, he goes, hello? He goes, Eddie, I'll call you back. And hangs up the phone. Doesn't even let him get a word.
How baller is that, by the way?
I was like, what?
If
For a second,
I
was like,
hung up on.
I was like, dude, there's no way Dan just called this dude Eddie Bravo.
Sorry, wrong number.
And freaking got him to answer. And I was like, there's no way. And then he tased me afterwards. He goes, that wasn't Eddie Bravo.
What was the story of Marcos thought Bobby Lee?
Oh my
me.
God!
That
Never
was me.
mind the question.
That was me.
Tell this story.
These guys.
Greg Tolman, he tours with, he features
Swartzen.
for Nick Swartzen. He's a comic here in Bakersfield. Basically, was it, you weren't here and I texted you?
I got here late.
Yeah,
got
okay,
here
so
late.
basically the rumor was that there was a comedian from the Hollywood Improv that was going to headline the show. And Marcos got
Do you
here.
know where that started? The
It was
rumor?
me.
I texted Anthony. I go, yo, who's...
Was that part true?
Oh,
Some,
there was
like
a-
a,
there was an unannounced.
it wasn't
right?
even-
It was
Yeah.
it was an unannounced special headliner that no one knew, and I knew who it was. It was some dude.
And Greg had toured with some bigger name comics.
Yes.
So the perception would then be
Here's-
that he would have had access
Yes.
to.
Here's how it played out with Anthony, because I showed up hella late. I had no idea who Greg Tolman was. I have no idea who he, but I know him now. He's a great guy. And Anthony, I go, yo, like, it was a packed house. It was sold out. It was sold out. I didn't know who Greg was. Didn't know what industry he was in. But I go up to Anthony and go, yo, who's this guy, Greg Tolman? And he goes, he opened for Daniel Tosh. He's open for Nick Swartzen.
Greg
He's
Giraldo.
open for Greg
Giraldo,
Giraldo.
RIP.
Just like these like huge theater name comics who, if they were still around today doing shit, they'd be in arenas. And I go, that's crazy. And then he goes, yeah, there's supposed to be a special headliner, and it's Bobby Lee. And I'm like,
oh
no
my
way.
gosh.
And I'm such a great friend. I'm a great friend to my other friends. And I called Julian Nieto.
Which is, by the way, the juxtaposition. The more he highlights what a great friend he is, the more he's also saying what a crappy friend you are for doing this.
I'm a great friend. I'm a great friend. So I know my friend loves Bobby Lee. He loves Bobby Lee. They had like a mutual thing, and then he's just a huge fan of Bobby Lee.
Oh, you
And my
told
friend
him.
wasn't there. He lives on the north. What would
It
you
was
call it?
like an Oildale.
Not even.
At that point, he lived in Oildale.
No, he was with his
Oh
parents.
yeah, he lived over
like
by
north,
Rosedale.
northwest. Like he lives almost in Shafter,
Yeah.
Bakersfield.
He wasn't even at Oildale yet. He was still with his parents.
That's how new he was. And I called him. I go, dog, you're not. And I wasn't supposed to tell anybody. I was
Yeah,
supposed
it
to
was
tell
going to be a
nobody.
secret. It's supposed to be a
He said it's
secret.
supposed to be a secret. You're not supposed to tell nobody. I go, I'm not going to tell nobody.
You're pulling out your phone calling Julian.
I walk outside and I can't. I'm like, I'm so new into comedy. The club's still brand new, so I'm still like, I'm flabbergasted. I can't believe it. I'm like, how in the world did we get Bobby Lee in Bakersfield? That's crazy.
Oh.
So I called Julian.
Bobby, if you're watching this, please return my email.
I called Julian, and I'm like, hey man, I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but I knew I had to tell you. It's like Bobby Lee is about to headline the Well Comedy Club in like 20 minutes. Julian lives 25 minutes away. Julian gets in his car. He gets here in 10 minutes, speeding through everything. I woke him up.
He was in bed.
I woke him up.
He was
bed
in
next to his
PJs.
girl.
Yeah.
Woke him up, and he was like, bet I'll be there right now. Got here in 10 minutes.
Didn't I end up a patsy in this too? Didn't somebody ask me like, was it you?
I
that
came up to you and go, yo, Bobby Lee's in the
And
theater.
I told you before. I'm like, I was like, yeah, tell him like it's Bobby. I
don't think I even said
No,
Bobby Lee. I think you said.
He said,
Oh, yeah, I said,
Whatever
hey-
Marco says, or like if he comes to ask you, just agree.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
So you were like, dude, is it true? I go, what? You go, the special guest. I'm like, dude, it's true. And then he gets on the phone.
Oh, you guys are so
no idea.
mean.
He didn't know. It was me.
Even better. I'm because how the club's set up. I'm walking. I don't want to be rude and go into the green room. But I'm like walking. I'm pacing a little bit.
No.
Making up reasons to come to the side of the.
There was a lot of groupies around, so
Yes.
you can kind of see that there was like an Asian person in here, and I was like, "That's him over
They had
there."
a haircut. They had the same glasses that Bobby Lee would wear, like those
Like
yellow,
colored lenses.
yeah, colored lenses, like aviators. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, I literally was like, oh my god.
This person just happened to
Wasn't
have
it a chick?
everything
Was it
that
a- Yes.
Bobby Lee would have.
I was like, no way. And I'm walking out, and there's people that I know who are getting up and leaving the show. Almost to the point. There's people I know. They're leaving. They're leaving.
Idiots.
They're leaving. And in my head, I'm like, these guys are dumb. These guys have no idea what's about to happen, and they're leaving? You are out of your mind. I almost wanted to tell them, like, you shouldn't leave. You might want to go back in there and
Oh,
just hang out for the special guest.
no.
And Julian gets here, and then I'm hanging out outside because I didn't know who the guy was, who was currently on stage. And then a all black Ford Expedition pulls up, and it has like that little. Whenever someone hires a driver, they have like a little number on the side of the truck and on the tailgate saying like what lot number it is or what truck vehicle it is. And it's blacked out. You can't even see the inside, and it stops right in front of the door, and it sits there. And I'm like, no freaking way. Bobby Lee's going from the green room, jumped in his truck, came to the front. He's going to walk in through the front door. And I'm standing right here in the front door. And he's going to walk right by me before he goes on stage. I was like, this is fucking crazy. This is crazy. And I go back inside. I go to Julian. I go, dude, we got to go outside. I can't be out here for this. I'm going to fangirl out. I was like, this is crazy. So I go. We stand in the back of the club. And they go, and Greg is on stage. And he goes, thank you guys. That's my time. And we got one more comic left. They're a very special guest. Man, I love this guy. He performs at Comedy Store, Hollywood Improv regular. Everybody give it up for Brian Schwartz.
Brian Monarch.
Brian Monarch. And I'm just sitting
Who
there.
gives a shit?
And I'm just sitting there.
This is some white dude.
What did Julian say
Daryl.
or do when he heard that?
I just started dying laughing, and I think
We fell on the floor. Anthony fell
Actually,
floor.
on the ground during
we
the show.
were on the ground, dying laughing. There was a guy
In
driving
a-
wheels in
in
a
a
wheelchair.
Going around you.
Anthony's trying to get by, and Anthony's in his damn way. He can't move. We're dying, and then Julian looks at me and goes, "You called me all this way." And Julian was like, "Are you pranking me right now?" I go, "I swear I thought it was Bobby Lee. I swear I thought it was Bobby Lee, dude. I swear to God, I thought it was Bobby Lee." Anthony told me Bobby Lee was here, and I walked with Julian to come right here by the green room, and I'm like, "Look, I thought it was him right there." And it was a girl walked out an Asian woman walked out, fat Asian woman, glasses and everything. I go, I was bamboozled. I got.
I remember Julian looking at me like, dog, like, are you
He's like, I got out of bed for my girl with this.
Okay. I think we've established favorite moment at the club. Right there.
You guys are all in on it too.
Yeah.
That's it. That's number one.
That
I
Hilarious.
couldn't believe it.
And if you know who Bobby Lee is, like
That's a great story.
He's a huge comedian, and he hosts of the Bad Friends podcast with Andrew Santino. So I feel like they're definitely in the top tier of like comedy podcasts right now. So it's a huge name.
Yeah, it's a
huge
huge
name that
deal.
you'd never expect to be here at the club. Especially it was April 2023, so it was still like. Haven't been a year yet of being an open comedy club, and we're getting this guy. It was great. It just
That's my goal, by the way. I want to get Bobby Lee, and I want to not tell you guys it's going to be Bobby Lee.
and just like the craziness of like who Greg Tolman opened for, it was the most believable.
It was believable.
too. It was super believable because I'm like, Greg has that kind of pull because Greg knows weird guys. Like Greg is friends with, like that super hot fire guy who did
Yeah.
like, that rap video on YouTube.
and
a
it
while back.
sounds
kids.
sounds cool.
And
Like
kids
knowing
from
that
Kid
like
and
he
Play.
has
Yeah.
he has the connections, and then to know like this is a full-time comedy club,
Yeah.
and then how intimate it would be if Bobby Lee did come.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, anything is possible. But then like But just knowing who Greg's friends are and like who they, like stuff like that, you think it's fake after a while. You're like, there's no way he knows these people. And then you see him come with these people and you're like, that's wild.
Yeah, he like just went to
They
like
just did
go see,
one of
like,
the
Wiz
super hot
Khalifa.
fire things with Eli Manning.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he did a thing with Wiz Khalifa not that long ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's insane.
They almost did the Wiz Khalifa one here.
That would have been cool.
Really?
Yeah, side story. Humble brag.
pretty. Let's see. The Well Comedy Club has become a bit of a comedy hub. How do you think the club has helped shape the local comedy scene?
I think it is the local comedy scene. Like this club is the local comedy scene. Anyone that comes and does a show here that's from LA or up north or wherever, they're just coming in and kind of like they're coming in as outsiders, but the comedy scene is revolving around the open mics here and the shows here and the showcases here for new comedians and the ability to get passed and use it as a credit. Like this is the comedy scene here. So I think its existence alone just helps shape people and give them the opportunity to perform at a club, perform for sold out crowds that you won't get anywhere else here in Bakersfield unless you work really hard and promote and put all this money in. But I feel like it's established and it's just known now that to do comedy in Bakersfield, you have to go to the Well. And I think everyone knows that. Everyone knows the name. Anywhere I go, especially when you go to like the coast, people are like, wow, you're at the Well Comedy Club. I'd love to play there. I'd love to do this there. You go to Fresno, they're like, I'd love to perform there. I want to perform there. You go to LA, I want to perform there. I want to perform there. So it has its name now. It's had its shows. It's had its sold out shows. And I think that it's like a beacon of comedy. It's its hub, you know, so.
It's a cool thing too because Bakersfield we're located just literally from door to door, from this door until a main comedy club that's like known as like the mecca of comedy, the Comedy Store. We're an hour and 45 minutes away from that door, and that's where I feel like we have a huge advantage that these other comedy clubs like Sacramento, like clubs like that, they don't have the advantage of like, hey man, like you can come do an hour, you drive an hour and 45 minutes, bring a friend with you, and you could come perform on a show in front of like real people. Like for the start of real people, that's like the closest you could get to central like United States or Midwest or anything like that is it's here in Bakersfield. And that's where you could really test out if your road stuff's gonna work or anything like that. And we have that advantage. And that's why I think we could pull way like better comics than, like, no offense to some of these like clubs that recently closed, like Alameda and stuff like that. We have that ability to draw that. And for the local comedy scene, it's that benefit too of like you're performing for real people at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday open mics.
Yeah.
Versus you go to an open mic in LA and you're performing in front of a room full of comics in a room the size of this green.
You go to a show in LA and you're performing for other comics. Yeah. Like comics know that and that's the thing is like it's hard to test your material as a comedian in front of other comedians. It's a different vibe. But knowing that you could just get in your car and drive here, you don't have to fly, you don't have to spend a hell of money getting a plane ticket and flying super far, driving far. You can go play here, go back to your own bed and sleep in the same night. And I think that's like the biggest draw. And having the local comedians exposed to that and the comedians that come here is just the best experience. That's why I choose to work here as the manager, the front of house manager, because I get to be around it all and I live 7 minutes away. I think that's the best.
And the biggest thing for me is we talked about it with Dan when we were in Vegas, was something about this club. For me as a comic personally, it helped me establish a development process of being a comedian. Like you get here and you start off as an open micer and you work you have a little bit of a path to work your way to, and that's from open micer. Okay, I'm just doing open mics. I've been doing open mics. For me, I was like, I did open mics from 2018. I didn't get my first show until 2020. So I did it from two years straight as open micer, and then you work your way towards being an opener now. And now from there, you work your way to being a feature. And then from there, you could eventually become a headliner. And I think for here, the club, like it's definitely helping develop that professional setting to be like a real professional comic in Bakersfield versus before. It's like we did not have that to where, you know, you only get up twice a week or once a week and stuff like that. Out here, you go up 3 times a week, 3 days in a row. There's no other comedy club that's going to give you that chance to go up 3 days in a row and really invest in its local talent like that and really develop, you know, their comedic skills and make them better comics. And that's why, in my general opinion, I think it probably won't be me in like 10, 15 years. You'll start hearing about guys who came out of here. I genuinely feel like that because of the way the club started out here in 2022 and really pushed its local comics. Like, yo, you got to jump on your game out the gate almost.
Having the club too, I think in the local scene, it like you said, it just like it teaches everyone the professionalism of this and that it's not just a bar with people that aren't listening. It's like there's real bills to be paid, there's real money to be made, there's a real opportunity here, and it really makes you step up your ability to perform comedy.
And that's the thing too, is like it's like I called it an investment. It's, you know, is Dan gonna make his money back from, you know, is he like really putting money on people and putting money into them? Technically no, but he's giving you a place to develop as a comic, and people need to use people really need to use that as a tool instead of like, well, why am I not getting on Friday, Saturday? Go, well, you can't even show up on Tuesday, Wednesday. You only show up for Thursday, so that tells you a lot.
And speaking to the whole open mic, the local scene, it's like even open mics in general, you'll go to one in LA and you're just performing for the comedians. If you come here, like I host the Thursdays here at the club. Last Thursday, there was like 25 real people here. And by real people, I mean audience members that are not comedians ready to laugh. That is bigger than a lot of shows in LA that people are throwing and spending so much time and energy into. You can come here and really see if your stuff works or not. And I think that is the biggest way that it helps local comedians too, is just testing your material in front of real people at an open mic, which is rare.
Nothing to add. It's great to hear their perspective because mine is so different because I'm in the thick of it. You know what I mean? Like if you imagine just being in the middle of a cornfield, the only thing you can see is corn, you know, but for somebody to be like in an airplane above it and to see like the maize carved through it or whatever, you know? So I get lost in the thick of it sometimes. I'm too close to it sometimes, but it's cool to hear then that to some extent the vision is actually playing out, right? That it's not just a club, it's a part of the scene or the scene itself, a scene, you know, the center of that or whatever, and that cultivating comics. And I'm with you completely. I've kind of said for a long time, I would love, like my actual vision for those that don't know is I would love to see Bakersfield comedy be put on the map in the way that like Boston's comedy scene came out of nowhere. It was like mini Boston here. It's like Bakersfield, for some folks that know, is like has its stamp, its indelible mark on music through Buck Owens and Merle Haggard in particular. Johnny Cash kind of, you know, had a bit of a twang out of Bakersfield, if you will, out of that sound. But it's known as the Bakersfield sound. I would like for the Bakersfield sound to, you know, pass that torch to that sound is laughter. Like the next evolution of that is comedy. I would be ecstatic for a comic to kind of come through the combine of Bakersfield Comedy, the Well Comedy Club, and blow up. It would be great if it was one of us in this room, but if it wasn't, I would be absolutely thrilled. I would gladly do 5-minute guest spots on the show of somebody big that came through this, and you could put that on my gravestone. I'd be pretty thrilled about that.
Nice.
Make it count. I got dinner with the family. I'm late.
Looking back on your journey as a comedian, especially with the experiences with Rocket Shop, the Well Comedy Club, from the beginning to this point, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone that's just starting out in comedy?
Don't stop. Don't stop going up. There's definitely, I quit comedy for, I don't remember if I remember I told Dan, I quit comedy from November or sometime in 2019. I quit comedy for almost a whole year, and I didn't go back. And I didn't think I was ever going to go back until just randomly I was in Bakersfield getting an oil change. I go, let me go see what's happening at Rocket Shop. And I got pushed to go back up. And then from that day forward, I was like, never. And the pandemic happened, and it shut down again. When you think you're going to lose something and you're like, damn, I don't think I should do this no more, like just you go up again and see how it feels. And then if that time doesn't work out for you, go up again. Just keep going up. You'll eventually hit a strive or momentum that will push you to finally just give it your all and be like, yo, I could just do this. And eventually you get to I didn't think I don't know, what was it, like 2 years ago I quit my 6-figure job to do this. I never would have thought I would have done that. And it took me to like, yo, I think I could do this for real, to finally, it took honestly this place to open up for me to just jump all in. Mm-hmm. Because I worked in the mining industry for a little bit. And then Dan was like, I'm going to open up a comedy club. And then I told Dan I quit, and then I begged him to be a cook here. So
you said anything specific.
I said anything. I'll do anything you want.
Any job here.
And that's what that was the thing that I learned about these comics who were successful. A lot of them did that. I was like, you just throw yourself into it and push to really be like what you want. And that's be surrounded with what you want to do for a living. And that's comedy. For me, I was like, I just want to be involved in comedy. And from there, you kind of figure it out. And then it came from, I was cleaning toilets to I was cooking, I was picking up beer orders, I was cleaning the walk-ins, doing bookings, assisting on bookings with Dan, advising on bookings, helping run open mics. You kind of just do whatever you got to do to keep your face in front of the owner, in front of the guy who's going to give you a showcase, keep your face in front of these headliners. Even if you're just working the door at a comedy club, those headliners are going to see your face. And you go to a comedy club, like, say for us, like we go down to the Comedy Store, Anthony's wearing that hoodie, and then they see him like, oh yeah, you were at my show when I headlined there. You were the door guy. They remember stuff like that. It's ironic. But if there's anybody who ever sees anything like this and you really want to do comedy, just find a place that does comedy all the time and work there or figure it out from there. Just be around it. That's all I could tell somebody. Just be around comedy as much as you can. If that's cooking, making chicken strips all day, to do that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, mine is exactly with him, what he said, in a different words. Like you said, what was keep coming out or
keep going up.
Mine is don't stop. Just keep, and I work here now, and I'm part of that whole just be around as much as possible and show your face. Also, do well on stage, though. I think that's like the biggest thing too. Is like you have to kill on stage. You have to do well, but the only way you do that is by not stopping, going up, and showing your face and being around. And I'll never change my path, and I still feel like I have a good few years left here being the manager or doing whatever I got to do to be around it and grow. But my biggest advice to new comics all the time as a host on Thursdays is keep coming out, don't stop, and things will happen. That's literally the only thing you can do is just keep coming. Because even if you keep coming out and you're not good, you will only get good if you don't stop. And if you stop, then you'll never know, and you quit. And I think that's how I get respect for new comics. So I don't even care if you're funny. I just care if you're trying and you're not stopping. And that's the biggest advice.
I'm with them. Years ago, I was trying to do a podcast, long time ago, podcasting not being what it is today. And I was on a show with the guys from Super Troopers, Steve Lemmy and Kevin Heffernan, Farva, and I can't remember the other guy's name in Super Troopers. And I was trying to do this segment where, like, if I got on a show like that, and it was with like bigger name comics, that I was going to ask them, like, what's your one piece of advice to up and coming comics? And both of them said, just never quit. Because the thinking is that you watch comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. He talks about how hard comedy is. And you're kidding me? Like, we're telling jokes. It's the greatest job in the world. But it really is, it can be soul crushing. There's tons of rejection. There's countless hours of driving at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, exhausted, swerving, trying to get home safe, and you're jacking yourself up on Red Bull just trying to get home safe, and then you get home and you can't go to bed because you're so jacked up from the adrenaline from the show that you just did, and then getting home. And in my case, I got kids. First thing in the morning, you got to be up for them too. So it really can be grueling. And I've said it like this to folks: comedy doesn't sound really cliche, and you guys can jump in and make fun of me here, but to me, it really is the pursuit of happiness, right? Like, we know comics who aren't where they want to be in comedy, and so they're miserable. You're like, well, if this is just about the end game to you, you're going to be miserable the whole time, right? You could be a soccer player and go a whole season without scoring a goal. Hell, you could be defense and never score a goal, or you could score a goal every 6 games, or maybe you get one in a game. If that's all you want out of it, you're not going to like soccer a whole lot, because a lot of the time you're just dribbling the damn ball.
Yeah.
A lot of the time you're passing the ball. And that's what this is to me. So it's easy to be discouraged about not being where you want to be, but you damn well better look back sometimes and recognize that you're enjoying the process. You're enjoying the road. If you don't enjoy that, there's no longevity for you in this game. So pursuit of happiness for me.
And a lot of, like, to piggyback on, like, what Dan's saying is the whole idea of, like, if you're going to start doing comedy and you're like, man, like 2 years, I'm going to have a special.
Or I'm gonna be making 6 figures doing
Yeah.
it. Like,
I'll
There's
be balling.
better ways to get rich, and there's
It's-
better ways to get famous.
Like, dog, right now it's like I've been doing comedy since 2018, so I'm going 7th year now or something like that. I think my math is wrong, but it's like Dan said, you got to look back once in a while and be like, yo, where did I start from? I started from living in California City doing this for 2-3 years, and I moved to Bakersfield to do comedy with the idea of, like, I'm going to do comedy at this club that's, like, opened up. So I moved here. I traveled back and forth for work for a while, and then I quit that job, and now I'm just doing comedy. And I'd proudly say this year I've done more gigs than I ever did in my comedy career, and that shows progression. I just came off of a 6-week straight, 6-week straight streak of shows every weekend. Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think that me back then would have been like, yo, I'd love to do a show once every 2 months. That was my mentality back then. I was like, I'd love to do a show once every 2 months. And now it's like, man, I had 6 weeks in a row. I had a show every weekend. That's crazy. And that's the thing too. It's I've heard this thing on a podcast before where they talked about it. The game of comedy is not who could get wet the fastest, it's who could get wet the longest.
You dunked
Anything
it.
else?
That's it. No, pop
Okay.
the ball. Was that last question? Mm-hmm. Can I tell you right now? I don't know if this is going to, if you're going to score well on this project or not. I hope we get some footage out of this that we can use too. I think there's some cool stuff I could borrow it for the club or whatever. But I think we just had an excuse to get together and bullshit and talk about comedy. So I enjoyed the hell out of doing this with you guys. Thanks so much for inviting me on Bad Neighbor Podcast.
I kind of want to release it on the channel.
Of telling them that I'm upset that they've had Jeremiah Nation on, but not me.
Release a special, you might. Release a special with 500 views.
do it tomorrow. But no, I've really enjoyed. We just all went to Vegas together and back, and that was a fun hang, and this was a fun hang. So hopefully, I'll have my podcast going, and you guys can come do it, and I'll just get a spare key and come join you on your podcast at some point. But thanks for putting this together. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing it here. Thanks for picking me and the club and us and comedy for your project. Thanks for letting us do this.
Yeah, thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. It came off a lot easier than I thought it would.
You didn't have to do anything, huh?
We're naturals.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn as a person who doesn't do comedy. There's like these comics talk a lot. We will talk about comedy for. I think we almost went for 3 hours.
We could probably go another hour.
Oh yeah, I still have like
but
a
this
bunch
fool
of
has
stuff
dinner.
Yeah,
I have questions.
I'm 2 hours late for dinner.
Yeah, I have questions that I actually like was thinking of.
Like
but like
follow-ups?
that
You
could
want to
be
go
another
lightning
time.
round?
I actually have a game. But I
Lightning
know
round,
that,
10-second answers.
yeah, I actually have a rapid fire segment, but because
What an idiot I am. We're done, right? We're on
But-
final approach, right? We've raised our seat backs and tray tables, and I'm like, let's take another lap around the airport.
I like seeing the ocean again.
Yeah, my wife's gonna see this and be like, "You're telling me you were 2 hours late for dinner, and you're the one that was like, let's ask some more questions. This is fun."
So it's gonna be rapid fire questions. Best and worst gig you've ever had.
Best gig ever, sold out Steve Trevino theater show. Worst gig ever, sports bar in Clovis following a drag show, and they didn't know that there would be a comedy show or a drag show.
Interesting. Okay, Howdy.
Best show would be probably the two sold out shows we had with Ken Flores here in June 2023. And worst show would probably be showing up to La Fonda Mexican Grill in downtown Bakersfield on 18th Street and finding out I had to host, run sound, bring my own speakers, bring my own mic upon showing up to the show.
That's about right.
Gosh, I have so many questions about this. Okay, Marcos.
My favorite show was doing offline comedy in Turlock. It was a sold out. Nobody knew anybody was. And I did 15 minutes, absolutely obliterated. And I got like 15 Instagrams after that. Instagram followers, which is a lot for me. Worst show, I did a show in Fresno at this in the back of a bookstore, and nobody showed up, so we did comedy in front of seats.
Sounds about right.
Okay. Next question, Dan. Most embarrassing moment on stage. 10, 9.
I think I wasn't doing well on a show one time, and I decided to go to the crowd. And I asked the guy a genuine question. He gave me a genuine answer, and I crapped on him, and it wasn't necessary. And it was very clear that I utterly ruined his night. Completely. At some point, I was like, "We're cool, right?" Like jokingly, and he was in the crowd, and he went. And I clearly upset this guy.
Ruined his day.
I ruined his week. He was there with his girl. They were probably on a date. That was awful.
That's really awesome. Sorry, that was past 10 seconds. Howdy.
3 hours in, she's really getting the hang of it.
I hosted for Sal Trujillo and Mike Eshak, and in the middle of a bit, I realized I was telling it wrong, so I told the audience I told it wrong, and I killed the energy in the room, and I just started sweating bullets, and it was embarrassing.
My most embarrassing moment was I was high on mushrooms on stage, and my entire family showed up to a show called Fresno versus Bakersfield that we produced, and I had to go at the very end, and I thought the mushrooms would wear off, and they didn't, and I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, shows end bad," and I got off stage.
Was that the show that your mom was flirting with me
No,
at the
that
bar?
was a different one. Yeah, I literally got off stage, and I go, "Yeah, sometimes shows end bad," and I just put the mic in, and I walked off.
Yikes.
It was
Wow.
so bad.
Dan, what's a joke that always works for you?
I do a bit that's a misdirect where I compare myself to Hangman from Top Gun, and then it turns into Matthew McConaughey in the movie where he had AIDS.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah.
Okay. Howdy.
I usually have this bit where I say,
Schmegma.
where I ask someone in the audience, I'm like, when did you become an uncle or an aunt? And they tell me an age, and I say, I know I'm Mexican because when I was born, I had a niece that was 12 years old. That was my first joke, and it works every single time.
I thought you were gonna do the gloves. The gloves
Oh,
always work.
that one too.
Marcos.
I normally look at a couple and I go, I bet when you guys have sex, it smells like Cinnabon.
God, you're really giving me
Can
stuff
you
I
say
just
that in a
can't
way
use.
that you could use it for class? Like,
And that was a clean way. I normally
When you
say,
two-
I bet when you
when
guys
you-
it smells like a Cinnabon.
Okay, but like,
When
there's
you two
like not
fornicate?
any other joke that works.
when you two make love?
Like,
I can't, no, because a lot of my jokes bomb.
Yeah, he doesn't have any. That's the only
I
example.
don't have safe jokes.
When you're half
his
half
only-
Mexican, half
yes,
Polish.
I'm half Mexican, half Polish, so I'm like a Costco hot dog with salsa on it. He wrote that joke. For me.
Awesome. That's way better. What is Dan, what's a weird heckling experience you've encountered?
Early on here, I don't think we owned the place yet. No, we didn't. And I was hosting an open mic here, and a lady was at the bar. Clearly had zero desire to be at an open mic at all. She just wanted to be at a bar. She was drunk with her boyfriend, husband, whatever, and started heckling us and wouldn't stop. And I started engaging her, and I'm generally fairly gentle with hecklers. And she came and sat on the edge of the stage and refused to leave. And at some point, I had tried all of the dealing with heckler tricks that I had in my arsenal. I had nothing, and I basically pleaded with her. I kind of held the mic away a little bit. She's literally sitting but facing the crowd on the stage, and I literally was just like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me?" I was pleading with her to just knock it off. So that lasted for half an hour. She just sat there.
I was doing jokes on you roast battle at the back of a gym, and I had just brought up something about Native Americans, and this random white dude just had such an issue with it that he started getting aggressive, standing up, shouting at me, and I was cussing him out, and it had to get de-escalated, and I had to have someone walk me to my car.
In fairness, I was drunk, and I'm sorry. I've said it. I've said it so many times. My mom's part Cherokee, and
I had
Marcos?
an experience. There's an open mic at McMurphy's in Eastside Bakersfield, and I went, and I was the only white guy in the room, and there's two white guys. There's me and another guy in the back of the room, and I made a joke about Patrick Mahomes not being able to say the N-word, and the guy in the back of the room started Hitler saluting. It's a room full of black people.
again, that's why I don't do Jameson. I just sorry.
Okay.
Maybe
Last
just
question.
DM me next time.
Oh my gosh. Last question. What's the most random place you've done comedy?
Did it for a
The
HOA. We did a show for a HOA in a courtyard. It was really weird.
Okay.
A lot of fun though.
In Marcus's apartment, our first Bad Neighbors show was just us telling jokes to other comics, getting really drunk,
Yeah.
and being bad. Yeah.
I just realized today's the anniversary of one of my worst, Veterans Day. I did a show at CSUB on the field on Veterans Day, a clean veterans show at a podium with one of the microphones that does this, on the little arm thing or whatever.
Like a principal's podium.
Yes. And there was going to be a Chinook helicopter or something with Navy SEALs fast roping on the North Field or whatever at 11:30, and we're doing a show at 11 a.m. broad daylight in the field at the podium. Clearly everyone's just waiting for the Navy SEALs to show up. I followed the national anthem and the mayor, and the mayor she comes out and she does this a veteran is someone who at one time signed a check made payable to the United States government for an amount up to and including their life. And then it was are you guys ready to laugh? I had to come out. And they weren't. They weren't. That was one of the worst ones.
That's all that I have. Thank you, guys.
Great podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.